Welcome to footballgameplan.com, where football makes sense. I'm Emery Hunt, the czar of the playbook. Bring you a 2012 team preview for the Seattle Seahawks. So we're going to start with their offense to see what we can expect from Seattle this season.
The Seahawks have a bit of a quarterback controversy going on out there this season. They bring over Matt Flynn from the Green Bay Packers, who has some solid skill set, but you don't know if he was pretty much a product of Green Bay's passing attack versus a very weak Detroit Lions defense, or is he really a franchise quarterback? They also have Tavares Jackson, who showed a lot of heart last year, played through injuries, showed good leadership. He has the skill set that you want. He's mobile, and he also has a rocket arm. But I'm excited about the guy they drafted in Russell Wilson. I honestly think this is the guy that they have to go with as their starter. Good quarterbacks don't lose, and he provides that for the Seattle Seahawks. He also has the mobility. He has the accuracy. He has the leadership qualities. He has everything that you want in a quarterback, and he's won at every level. So the Seahawks have to figure this out before the season starts, because they can't do the quarterback carousel throughout the course of a season. And also, don't forget about Josh Porter, a very young and promising prospect. Looks to be probably headed to the practice squad. There's not enough good things you can say about Marshawn Lynch and what he brings to that Seattle Seahawks offense. He brings a level of consistency, something that they lack as a unit as a whole, but he brings that power, he brings the speed. He also is a very underrated pass receiver out of the backfield. What they needed was depth behind them. That's why I love what they did in the draft this year. They went ahead and took a guy that's virtually his clone in Robert Turbin out of Utah State. Also has very good hands, also runs with power, and has deceptive breakaway speed. And honestly, if you put this guy on Alabama's football team, then you'd have Trent Richardson. He just doesn't get the credit because he went to Utah State, but this is a very good prospect, and I'm excited to see what he brings to the table this season. And don't forget about their third down back and their kickoff return specialist, Leon Washington, an excellent receiver out of the backfield. In order for the Seahawks offense to take flight this year, they need the receiving corps to step up and play huge. They need guys like Sidney Rice to shake the injury bug and be that deep threat that he was in Minnesota. They also need Doug Baldwin to have an encore performance of what he did last year. He was the team's leading wide receiver. He wants to prove that he's much more than a slot guy, but I think you should stay in the slot because that's where you were most productive. Do what you're good at and let other guys take the pressure off you, like Mike Williams. He has to step up and revert back to his 2010 form. And they have a bunch of guys that's very solid and talented, but they also need to have that continuity. Guys like Ben Obabanu and Golden Tate, another guy that has to step up and have another encore performance like he did last year. And keep an eye on Ricardo Lockett, a guy that has a lot of speed out of Fort Valley State. He should have some solid ticks as well, but they need those young receivers to step up and play consistent. Now, the tight end position I'm excited about. They have a really good tight end in Zach Miller. They got him over there from Oakland. He's going to have a lot more room to operate because of the guy they bring in next to him in Kellen Winslow from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This guy is a wide receiver in the tight end's body, so they're going to be able to utilize more double tight end sets this year. So the tight end position may be the strongest out of the group of receivers, but the receiving core as a whole has the potential to be solid. The Seattle Seahawks struggled last year with injuries, and it showed. They gave up 50 sacks last season. That almost put them dead last in the league. They were 29th. They just need their talented guys to stay out there for 16 games. Guys like Russell Okung has to stay out there. If he does, he's one of the more premier tackles in this league. Max Unger did a great job of staying healthy. He's the center. First full season of starting, played some good football. Paul McQuiston is quite possibly their best offensive lineman because he is consistent, and they just need to have that continuity. They need to get those guys out there. John Moffitt returns from injury, and he should play some solid football on the interior. Third-year guy out of Wisconsin, second-year guy out of Wisconsin, and I like the fact that they bring over Deuce Latui. He played with Pete Carroll out there at USC. Maybe he can revive his career, so it brings some depth on the offensive line as a whole. This unit has to stay together for 16 games, has to stay consistent, and keep an eye on James Carpenter, another guy they drafted that's returning from injury. If continuity is the key, these guys need that to happen this season in order to have some success on offense. The Seahawks quite possibly have one of the more underrated defensive lines in the league. These guys do not get the credit they deserve nationally. Red Bryant is a very good football player, one of the best run-stuffing defensive ends in the league, has great size and athleticism. Opposite of him is Chris Clemens. This guy is in his 9th year out of Georgia. 22 sacks the last 2 seasons. He had 11 sacks last year. this guy can get to the quarterback. Opposite of him, they need another pass rusher, which is why they go and grab a guy like Bruce Irvin out of West Virginia. I don't care what people say. I don't care if you 5'10", 180 pounds. If you can get to the quarterback like Bruce Irvin can, you can play on my defense. And that's why the Seahawks went and grabbed him. He's going to provide that pass rush consistently on third downs and in pass rushing situations. And they also have a very good defensive tackle in Brandon McBain. This guy had over 56 tackles as a defensive tackle. That's impressive. Alan Branch looks like that he's revived his career in Seattle as opposed to what he was doing out there in Arizona. So overall, I like the Seahawks defensive line, and they added depth in the offseason by bringing over Jason Jones, a guy that has some solid seasons pass rushing as a defensive tackle for the Tennessee Titans. A healthy Leroy Hill is a productive Leroy Hill. He stayed healthy for the first time in his career, and it showed mightily on the football field. This guy did a great job being productive all over the football field, making tackles. And KJ Wright also had himself an impressive season. His play actually made Aaron Curry expendable, so they got rid of Aaron Curry. He's going to be the starter, entrenched in that starting lineup. The middle linebacker position, they have to replace David Hawthorne. That's why they go ahead and draft a guy like Bobby Wagner. I think he can play outside or inside, any one of those positions. He's a versatile linebacker, did a lot of great things for Utah State. Two guys coming out of Utah State for the Seahawks. A very good program out there. And they bring over Barrett Ruud, a guy that you want to keep an eye on. As he recovers from injury, when he gets back, he's going to be a guy that provides solid depth and also a very intriguing pass rusher in Jamison Kynes. They drafted 3 years ago out of Kent State. Keep an eye on this young man as he may have an impact this season. In my opinion, everyone back there in the Seahawks secondary shared the same attributes. You got guys that love to play football, they're passionate, they're active when the ball is in the air, they all have ball skills, and they can tackle very well. So from top to bottom, whether it be corner or safety, they're versatile. They can play either or. You look at Earl Thomas, a guy that can play corner or safety. Richard Sherman has safety type size, but he's a cornerback. Brandon Browner is 6'4" with some great ball skills and also a great hitter. And Cam Chancellor is another guy that has ferocious tackling skills. So I look at the Seahawks secondary. The best thing that happened to this team was adding more pass rush. They were 4th in the league in interceptions. That number should increase with an added pass rush. Marcus Trufant returns, the Wily vet, 10-year vet out of Washington State. So they get some solid guys in that secondary. They have depth. Walter Thurman should return from injury. So you have to like what you see so far from the Seahawks secondary. And I think these numbers that they had last year will definitely improve. You have to be optimistic about what Pete Carroll brings to the table. He brings that college level of competition. These guys are out there competing like they're on scholarship. You have to love this. This is a college type atmosphere. This guy has done a great job in his second stanza as an NFL coach. So you have to be optimistic with him running the ship out there in Seattle. The quarterback position has to be the concern, in my opinion, because you have to pick the right one. Either one of these guys are solid, but you have to pick the one that you're going to stick with for 16 games. And in my opinion, it should be Russell Wilson, or if not, it should be Tavares Jackson. I'm not sold on Matt Flynn. I think he was a product of the system, but if they go with Flynn because they paid him the money, then that could be an issue because you may have to flip-flop from him later on in the season. But the Seahawks have to get this quarterback situation right the first time. You can't do the flip-flopping throughout the season because that can cause a lot of problems and derail any chances you have of making the playoffs. I have the Seahawks finishing second in the NFC West. This is a very good football team, and I'm a big fan of what they have brought to the table, what they already have on the roster, and where they're going under Pete Carroll. It's all about, can they get it all together in one season? I think they can. This is a team, in my opinion, that can push for that last playoff spot in the NFC. They need a few breaks in the passing game, but if they stay consistent to what they're good at, running the football, solid defense, and a good special teams unit, this team can surprise them in 2012.